Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crypto Atlas. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, we're talking about Orchid, and we're going to talk about OmiseGo or OMG. And if you guys are new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe for more information on the cryptocurrency space. We predominantly cover Bitcoin, and then I like to give some information in regards to some of the altcoins as well. Try to look at some of the gainers. A little project that a lot of us have been showing interest in is also called OXT, which is hence one of the reasons why I'm going to give a little bit of an update on that. But yeah, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. Just first off, I'm not a financial advisor. Anything I say is based on my own opinion. So you guys should always do more research on your own, and hopefully you enjoy what I share with you, and hopefully you find it very valuable. So let's take a look at this article with Bitcoin. It says that Bitcoin price may surge as fear and uncertainty strain global markets. Some key highlights here, just kind of takeaways. Go ahead and look at this chart while I go ahead and describe this right below. From a technical standpoint, a quick look at the CBOE volatility index shows that the implied volatility of the S&P 500 during the aforementioned time window increased quite dramatically, rising above the $30 mark for the first time in a period of more than 2 months. So you can actually see it right here, right around just a little bit past September 20th, leading many commentators to speculate that another crash akin to the one in March could be looming. It bears mentioning that the $30 mark serves as an upper threshold for the occurrence of world-shocking events such as wars or terrorist attacks. Otherwise, during periods of regular market activity, the indicator stays put around $20. And we are starting to see a little bit more of an uptick in relationship to war, if you guys have been keeping up with that. When looking at gold, the precious metal has also sunk heavily, hitting a 2-month low, while silver saw its most significant price drop in 9 years. This waning interest in gold has resulted in speculators believing that people are once again turning toward the US dollar as a financial safe haven, especially because the dollar index has maintained a relatively strong position against other premier currencies such as the Japanese yen, the Swiss franc, and the euro. Speaking of Europe, the continent as a whole is currently facing a potential economic crisis, with many countries dealing with the imminent threat of a heavy recession due to the uncertain market conditions that have been induced by the COVID-19 scare. And we could actually continue on further with this. If you go ahead and take a look at this over on Twitter, there's fines now that are going on. People in England can now be fined up to £10,000 if they test positive for COVID-19 and don't self-isolate. There are also fines for breaking social distancing laws such as the rule of 6 and not wearing a mask when required. A little bit further down here, from this gentleman, Matt Hancock, he said, "We all have a responsibility to help stop the spread of coronavirus. From today, we're introducing a legal duty to self-isolate and a new £500 support payment for those on lower incomes who need to self-isolate." So things are getting a lot more serious. You got to pay up. And a lot of the national debt that's happening, people are also struggling with going to work, right? So one of the important things that they're saying here is that employers must support self-isolating staff to help fight the virus. New rules mean that employers who prevent staff from self-isolating could face fines from today. So a lot of people could be having to pay out of pocket here pretty soon. And why Bitcoin's longest run above $10,000 matter, you can actually see this over on Twitter. Crypto Lark had made a post about this that grew a lot of attention. Bitcoin is now closed above $10,000 for 63 days in a row, the longest run in its history. Any dips under $10,000 were aggressively bought, having effects starting to be felt, right? And in regards to that, you can see from this article, they say Bitcoin has been above $10,000 for even longer than the record 2017-2018 run, giving confidence to long-term hodlers in the process. After 4 weeks down, Bitcoin bounces back on suspicions that recent bearishness was overblown. KuCoin Exchange gets hacked for somewhere between $150 and $280 million. We talked about that. And then Jack Dorsey outlined Twitter's blockchain. So I think that if we take a look over here on the charts in just a second, we're painting a pretty interesting story. But let's just take a little bit more of this off of Twitter because I thought there were some interesting things here too. So fun little side thing, right? Bitcoin, a sly, roundabout way. This is from F.A. Hayek, I think is how you say his name. He said in the past, "I don't believe we shall ever have good money again before we take it out of the hands of the government. We can't take it violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is by some sly, roundabout way introduce something they can't stop. And then this guy said, Bitcoin, a sly, roundabout way. I really like that. I really like that. In fact, I'm going to like that. And then we have over here what Lark had posted. And it says, looks like Bitcoin is not going below $10,000 anymore. We have passed the previous high of consecutive days above $10,000. Strong indications in past cycles. You take a look down as the dates progress down below. Number of consecutive days above the specified price. And we have breached that. And scrolling down, Willy Woo makes a lot of good posts. He said, my third and last tweet on BTC's decoupling from traditional markets via its own adoption S-curve. So take a look at this chart. He actually mentioned that we're still in this early stage. So if we head down through his thread, he said we're at the early adopters phase in Western countries. Some higher inflation countries are now broaching early majority according to this chart from Statista. And yes, the high monetary inflation the world is undergoing right now is growth steroids for BTC hodlers adoption. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. Share of respondents who said that they used or owned cryptocurrencies, the highest one actually being based in Turkey, Brazil, number 2, Colombia, Argentina, South Africa, then Mexico, Chile, China being basically in the middle of the list. And as we start to go down here, 4th from the list, US, Japan being at the bottom. Share of respondents who said they used or owned cryptocurrencies. So I believe this also takes into account selected countries, around 1,000 respondents per country surveyed in 2019. So this is from last year. Go up to basically 1,000 people who say like, hey, do you use or own cryptocurrencies? Doesn't have to be Bitcoin, could be any cryptocurrency, right? And that's the percentage of people that said it. So looks like the majority of people on a ratio perspective, at least from the group that they interviewed on this. I don't know who all they interviewed, if they just totally chose random places or they went to one location. So a lot of that can be kind of subjective. You should take it with a grain of salt, especially because you didn't interview every single person in the entire nation. But, you know, I find that to be pretty interesting. And then we take a look at the correlation with the S&P 500. The S&P 500 actually closed out on a positive for the day. A lot of people say Bitcoin has a strong correlation with it, right? Well, we go take a look at the chart now. Now we're actually moving on over here. You see that previously, yesterday, it had quite a bit of a gain push up. And then it retraced. We saw it touch this high point and then pulled all the way back down. And that is a little bit concerning because we're actually down below the 21 EMA now. And that was a daily close below the 21 EMA. Where we're at right now, we are below the 21 EMA and we're seeing a further continuation just slightly in comparison to where it was before. You could see it even starting to climb back up a little bit, but we were getting really, really close to that $11,000 mark, and it did a little bit of a fake out and decided to go the other direction. So when people say that Bitcoin is strongly correlated with the S&P 500, I mean, technically the S&P 500 went up today. Technically Bitcoin had gone up, but it's retraced quite a bit considerably since then. And so this makes you wonder, does that mean that the S&P 500 is going to really retrace a lot tomorrow? Or is this just going to find itself balanced back out a little bit higher onto another position? So, I mean, just as far as that correlation goes, it's finicky, right? It's not always correlated. And this is kind of proof in the pudding of something like that. Then we take a look also here. You can see that we have a descension in the volume. So I drew this little green line here just to kind of give you guys an idea. We have a descension in the volume after this big drop off that took place back on September 3rd. And because of that, at some point we should start to see a rise increase in volume, whether it be bullish or bearish. When you take a look at a lot of the news, it's like, okay, on one hand, right, we have more days being above $10,000 than we've ever had. Okay, that sounds great. Oh, at the same time, there's 2.5 million Bitcoin that are left. We're at 18.5 million now, and even more. So there's even less than 2.5 million Bitcoin that will ever be produced. So it's becoming more and more scarce. And a lot of people, that should be something that is the psychological element that goes into the brain that says, hey, I need to get in on this. And as a big financial investor, I have the capital to be able to do it. Let me do something in it, right? Especially when people are looking at a good, strong store of value, such as gold. A lot of people look at this and call it e-gold, essentially. I mean, there's another crypto that is, they are actually calling themselves e-gold, but you get it, like a digital form of gold. And so, yeah, with where we're currently at, the fact that it's below the 21 EMA, I am personally bearish on this until it is able to establish itself back above the 21 EMA. And I'm actually more bullish. It needs to break above 11,000 right now. Like, it's really finding itself. And I'm talking about closing out on a daily above 11,000. If it even passes a little bit above and then retraces back, I'm not bullish. I need it to actually close out on the daily above. And we're seeing this consolidation starting to take place. This RSI, the yellow line, the RSI is seen to be flat. The EMA is showing to be flat. And you got two circumstances, right? The easiest chance for you to go above the EMA is if you had this period of time where there's a big drop. So such as this. So if you start to climb back up, this is a lagging indicator, right? And with that, if you can cross over, that starts to be a bit more of a bullish indicator for a short-term perspective. So the more downwards that this is, when you start to reverse, it becomes a little bit easier because you're crossing 2 points at a stronger angle, if that makes sense. And then if you make it a flat line, that's the second case where you still have a pretty good opportunity to try to get that rally going, right? And if it's obviously on an uphill trend to try and stay above that 21 EMA, you got to have a lot of momentum growth. You can only go one direction for so long until you either completely crash it out and the thing is no longer existent, or a reversal starts to show. And in my opinion, we really want it to go bullish and explode and parabolic, and there's a lot of signs with it. But like when we're just looking at the economy is in a really unique state right now, and lockdown is happening. The debate with the stimulus, all this stuff, there's so much that's uncertain, and a lot of that can feed into this just kind of consolidated space where people are waiting to see what actually happens. And for a long time now, for months, everyone's been saying the stock market is going too high. It's going too high. It's going to pop. It's going to pop. It's recovering way too fast, and it still hasn't popped yet. And there's still so much fear in people's minds that when it pops, now that bubble is growing even bigger, and it's going to be even harder when it comes collapsing back in on itself. So be careful, ladies and gentlemen, while you're out there. Be careful. You want to make your investments? Just remember the golden rule. Never invest more than what you're willing to risk to lose. In the immediacy for me, I am personally bearish on Bitcoin. The indicators are saying to buy. If there's news that comes out soon about the United States and lockdowns, as we're seeing already in Israel and now the United Kingdom, the UK, I mean, United States, we got a lot of cases. I think there's pretty much it's pretty much imminent that something like that's going to happen. And I have a feeling that that's going to hurt the stock market, and that's also going to hurt this. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion on this. If you guys disagree with me, that's totally on you. And let's go ahead and look at Orchid very briefly, and also OmiseGo, OMG. Orchid had a good day yesterday. You see this big climb up. Somebody was pumping it. Volume itself wasn't really that great though, in comparison, and end up retracing back down. So another one of those days where we got this long wick up top and then a retracement back. The way I look at this, if you have a lot of days of it doing this, at some point, it's not going to work anymore. The pump and dump mechanic's not going to work. People are going to rally in, people are going to hodl, and eventually, if it keeps doing that, it's going to end up exploding. The retracement up, the retracement down, people are going to continue buying. That's my opinion on it. The fact that it closed down below the 21 EMA, it went above, but it didn't close above it. I'm still bearish. I really want this to work. I want it to go well, but I'm still bearish. I still think that it's got to establish itself above that 21 EMA. In the daily chart so far, we can see that it's had a further continuation down. And so it's down almost 3%. Almost back down to the 30-cent range, which is kind of this little lingering area that it's been at. It did push all the way up here to about 34 cents. Was looking pretty good. But this 30-cent range, it's basically between 25 and 30 cents. It's really wanting to hug that area right now. And we go take a look over at OMG. We got a bit of a consolidated space here, roughly between around $3.42 and $4.50 that it's been showing for the last, ever since looking back at September 3rd. So most of the month. And we are above the 21 EMA on this. It closed out yesterday and it's still holding in its position right now between the 0.618 and the 0.7. Come on, I always get these things moved over. Sorry about that. Come on, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? Between the 0.618 and the 0.786 with these two major levels. If it has a continuation up here, breaking above that, the next major level that we would be looking at would be right about here at the very top. And then it's looking to go into another major zone and kind of retest this accumulation phase. So it has some room to grow. We're seeing some retracements that have taken place both yesterday as well as far as today, but it's starting to settle itself down. The RSI is still in the median zone. The technical indicators are actually suggestive of buy. The volume for yesterday was on a higher end in comparison to what we've seen for quite a while now. So that's a pretty good sign right there. Starting to see a little bit of a push back up. For the date today, if it is able to continue on with that volume, then I would say that this is a very bullish indicator. And with how high it is currently above the 21 EMA, if it can establish itself on another daily candle for this, I would say this is looking pretty darn good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. So this one, am I bearish or bullish right now? I'm bullish at the moment. I'm still a little bit hesitant because I like to have a little bit more of establishment on a daily, but as of the moment, I am bullish. So that's it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys are new to the channel, we are trying to get to 500 subscribers. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Feel free to turn on your bell notification to get alerted whenever we have a new video. Hit that like button. I would love it if we could try to get to maybe 50 likes. If you guys haven't hit it and you see down below, maybe we can get to 50 likes, and drop a comment down below. Let me know what all your thoughts are. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.